How often do you fight with your partner in your relationship? Is a really important question. Do you argue about the same things over and over and over again? Do you fight daily? A couple of times a week? Constantly? Maybe little different scenarios, but basically you're fighting about the same things over and over and over again? You really need to get out of that relationship. And I'm so serious about this. The reason I feel really strong about making this video is I watched the entire police footage of the Gabby Petito case where the police pulled her over and they had the body cam footage. And I sat there at length and I watched the whole thing. And what a tragic story. And honestly, I think she had no idea that she was in an abusive relationship. They probably fought, people think it's normal to fight. I actually had a client say to me once, how often is it normal to fight? And I said, why, how often do you fight, right? And I've talked about that before, but the really crucial thing is that people can snap. And I don't know Brian Laundrie, I just know what I've seen on TV, but I would bet anything that he didn't mean to kill her. They probably were in the midst of a heated argument and he just went a little too far. And unfortunately, that happens far too often. I mean, honestly, it happened to me. I was in a very toxic relationship years ago and we fought constantly. Like to a point that a friend of his, who was very funny, used to say, oh, come on, this is like foreplay for you guys. And I was like, no, I hate this. But I stayed in the relationship, right? But if I'm completely honest, the reason I finally left that relationship was because he almost killed me. And I know he wasn't trying to, but I worked at a nightclub and I came home late and I went to his house and he'd been drinking all night, but I was perfectly sober and it was 3:00 in the morning. So I just decided I didn't want to engage in an argument with him and I went to bed. But he was not wanting me to just go to bed. He wanted me to stay up and hang out with me. And I ignored him, right? Because if you don't engage in an argument, right? I very openly have said that my father used to say, if you just shut up, they can't argue with themselves, right? So, and that's really when that lesson sunk home for me when I was in this relationship, where we fought constantly. But what I'm getting at is he was so angry at me that I wanted to go to bed. He put a pillow over my face and was just in his frustration trying to get me up. But I couldn't breathe. And thankfully, I was sober and could realize that if I kept fighting him, he was going to keep fighting me. And he didn't realize that I couldn't breathe. So I just laid there and I stopped and he let me go. But oh my God, I freaked out. And yeah, I was crying and he was going, oh, I didn't hurt you. You're fine. And yeah, I was fine. But it was the catalyst for me to leave the relationship. But do you know, I was about 25 or 26 or so then. Maybe I was getting closer to 30, but what I'm getting at is I became claustrophobic after that. And I'd never been claustrophobic ever. I used to love to go snorkeling and do things under the water. And I took a trip to Hawaii with my family. And I was standing on the dock of this boat watching the submarine come up that we were going to get into it. And I started having a panic attack. And I was with my brother and I was like, oh my God, I'm claustrophobic. And my brother looked at me and went, no, you're not. Because I'd never been. But this was very shortly after that had transpired. And to this day, tight, confined spaces, I have tools to help me get through it. But anyway, I don't want to make this all about that. What I'm trying to say to you is that if I had not been sober and had the wherewithal to stop fighting with him, he would have killed me. And he wasn't trying to kill me. And quite frankly, I think he would have been devastated if he killed me. I do think he loved me. I don't know. I didn't know Gabby or Brian, but I sat and I watched that body cam vid, and her behavior took me right back to my behavior in that relationship. So, because look, yeah, you wouldn't be in the relationship if you didn't love the person, and you want to believe the good in them, and you want to think that you can work it out. But is it worth your life? Look, loving someone is not a reason to lose your life over. And if you're constantly fighting and then like where you're out somewhere and then they leave you there, like in a restaurant or something like that, and now you're stuck and you've got to find your own way home, or, you know, you're fighting in like public places and then you're stranded somewhere, that is all toxic stuff and is not love. That is not real love. That's obsession, or it's just codependence, right? It's unhealthy. And please don't stay. Please, please, please hear me, and please reach out to me and talk to me if you feel like, you're acknowledging what I'm saying to you. And if you are fighting with someone a lot, don't make excuses for them. Don't try to cover it up. Don't own the responsibility. Look, I'm always encouraging people to take responsibility for their own actions. And it's always good to look at your participation in a fight. But if you love somebody that is being mean to you and fighting with you and causing you frustration, don't make excuses for them. And I'm not saying, I always say don't blame. That in this case, you do blame. Because in that situation with Gabby, if she'd been brave enough to tell those police officers the truth, she might be still alive today. And that's the whole point. We innocently love too much, right? When you love somebody too much, and just loving someone is never a good enough reason to stay with them if you're not happy. I would say ask yourself, what percentage of the time are you happy? And I mean happy in the relationship. And if it's not at least 80%, you're in the wrong relationship. Because the number one question to ask yourself is, do I feel loved? And I mean really loved. Love is meaning they care about your feelings and they would never want to intentionally hurt you. And if they're incapable of controlling their feelings or their anger, right? And now you've become their punching bag verbally, that's an abusive relationship. It is never okay to physically lay your hands on somebody in a harmful way. Never, no matter what you did, right? That is never okay. And don't make excuses for it. It really doesn't matter why the fight started or what was the catalyst if it keeps happening. What matters is that you need to get out of that situation. I always say the only winner of an argument should be the relationship, in that you discussed something and you found a better way to do something. But if you're just arguing about the same thing over and over and over again, it's the definition of insanity, right? To keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. I hope you really hear what I'm saying. And if you're in a relationship that you think, oh, they'd never hurt me, that would never happen, you're wrong. Accidents happen, and never say never. Things do happen. Usually when you least expect it. Unfortunately, a lot of people are now no longer on the face of this earth because they trusted somebody and they loved them and they never thought that they'd hurt them, but they did. So don't let that be you. I promise you, if you let go and move on, you will find somebody else to show you what real love is. Because someone who really loves you isn't going to yell and scream at you and is absolutely not going to lay their hands on you. Really think about that. Unfortunately, domestic violence is the cause of most murders of women. Most of the time, it's not that someone's like calculating how they can kill their partner. It's in the heat of passion, in the heat of the moment that an accident happens and then someone's dead. And then frequently that person kills themselves because they can't live with the guilt, which might be what happened in that case. So I'm just trying to appeal to you. If you fight a lot and you fight about the same things over and over and over, and it gets more and more heated every time and you can't make a resolution, you really need to get out of the relationship. And if you need help, reach out to me. I will absolutely talk to you and help you make a plan and help you see what would be best for you. And if you're really not convinced that you're in a toxic relationship, please call me. Because it's amazing to me how many people don't know what a toxic relationship even is. And if you're arguing a lot, and a lot, I mean like every day or every other day or several times a week, That's a toxic relationship. And you really need to get out. I never again had a relationship as toxic as that one. So it wasn't me, right? We're all different with different people. And he and I were oil and water. We just didn't really belong together. And ridiculously, we're good friends now, right? Like, I'm talking, this was 30 years ago. But it's largely why I do what I do now. Because I've been through a lot of that kind of stuff. And I really want to help other people not go through some of this stuff, right? And if you're listening to this and you're like nodding your head going, yeah, we fight all the time. But oh no, he'd never hurt me or she'd never hurt me, because women can be abusive too. If you're watching this and you're going, yeah, we fight a lot, but no, like they'd never hurt me. Don't ever say never, right? You might say they'd never intend to hurt you. But accidents happen and people get pushed sometimes too far. And my father used to say, are you going to say you're sorry when you kill somebody? Sorry's not good enough, right? And then you're dead. Please, please, please get out of this relationship, or at least reach out to a family member or me or somebody to help you see that it really would be the best thing for you to get out of the relationship. It only takes one moment to end your life in a toxic argument that seemed innocent. So don't let that be you.